Live from the Workplace Ninja Summit in Baden. From sponsor breakthroughs to community-led revolutions, this is the Workplace Ninja Community Stage.
Okay, I think that's my sign to start the presentation. Very warm welcome from my side. Thank you for joining and enjoy your lunch if you are eating. Currently, we will have a look at Azure Workbooks. That's a technology that's provided by Azure and where we can build dashboards for Intune, Entra, and stuff. First, a few words about me. My name is Luca, and I work as an endpoint engineer at BaseVision, where I have a focus on endpoint management, automation, and infrastructure there. I'm from Bern, maybe you can tell from my English skills, so that's in Switzerland. And I have a few certifications, and my hobbies are listed here, so I won't read them down, all of them. If you want to get in touch with me, go to my website or just reach out to me during the session. I'm also available here. That's the agenda. We're going to first have a quick view at Azure Workbooks in general. What is this technology? What can we do with it? And then we want to start to dive deeper into some advanced sourcing with data and what we can do in the real-world scenarios and where we might have pitfalls. And there are some resources and links where you can try it yourself. Maybe a quick question: who of you already knows or uses Azure Workbooks in the wild? Maybe quick. Okay, and did some of you already develop some own dashboards? Maybe also quick hands up. Okay, great. Thank you very much. I won't waste a lot of time in introduction because it's a very simple technology. It's an Azure technology, as I already mentioned. It's a platform to visualize data based on a few parameters, a few log sources and data sources where we will have a look in a few slides. It should be a single pane of glass where we can combine a few KQL queries or other data sources and hopefully gain some insights into data and get a lot of information out that can benefit the business. It's also possible to fetch live data with multiple data sourcing options, so we can leverage Graph API, for example, or other APIs, and have real-world insights and real-time insights into our data. It's an Azure resource, like you can probably see here on the right side. So therefore, Azure RBAC can be put in place to leverage the whole structure of role-based access control, where we can granularly manage the permissions. Since it's a JSON structure, it's based on JSON, so it's a very portable and scalable platform. We can just copy-paste most of the content to another tenant, for example, and also manipulate based on this JSON hierarchy. We have some filtering options that we can build into the dashboard. Maybe here on the top you can see the blue boxes. These blue boxes can be used to filter, to granularly filter the data. And there are also alternatives for Azure Workbooks. We have Power BI that you might be familiar already. There is Grafana, Dash Zero, Kibana, etc. It's just a Microsoft solution for visualizing data. And they also use it quite heavily in their own products. So in Entra or Intune, there are a lot of dashboards that they build and provide to us out of the box. That's a good topic to go on. If you want to have a look what Microsoft does with their data, you can just reverse engineer their dashboards. It's quite simple. If you go, for example, to Intune reports, there we have the workbook section, and you can just open a workbook that's provided there and click on the edit button on the top. This then opens up a new GUI where we also can see the granular sections, and we can edit them as well. And if we click edit on such a section, we can see the probably KQL code that Microsoft uses here, and also the parameters that are set by Microsoft. So we can see, for example, the log source and how they treat the time range and stuff like that. We will have a look at the demo later on. If you want to create a new dashboard by yourself, for example, you have a business need or some sort of requirement that isn't built into Intune itself, you can just open the Azure portal, search for workbook there, and click create new, and then you can start building. That's the view if you want to create a new workbook from scratch. So we can click the plus sign, and then we can use some grouping or resources we want to provide there. And that opens the second picture here. We can search for log sources. There is a lot listed, and we can then narrow down what we want to do. So let's go to advanced data sourcing. We will have a look at the possible data options that we can leverage to provide deep insights. Built in, we have the capabilities from Log Analytics Workspace, so we can run KQL queries against log data that's stored there. And we can also use Microsoft Graph API that's currently in preview, and it's not showing in GUI, but you can use the JSON structure behind it to leverage these capabilities. There's also the possibility to run queries against Azure Resource Graph, so you can leverage multiple options or can search what you have there. That is a good topic. Yannick and Loris in their session used Azure Resource Graph to get some insights into managed identities, I guess. So that's linked in the end. It's also possible to query external HTTP endpoints, for example, serverless functions or storage buckets. We will have a look at it in the demo. And also third-party APIs, for example, ServiceNow can be integrated into Azure dashboards. Maybe a short tip here: if you have a lot of data aggregation, if you need to combine stuff, it's probably the best to offload these capabilities to a third party or other service, for example Azure Functions, because the whole thing is loaded in the front end, and therefore the performance is a little bit optimizable. Let's have a look at the deployment options. If you want to scale this technology, for example, between test environments or customer environments, if you are an MSP, it's completely ARM-based, so Azure Resource Manager based, and can therefore be integrated into everything that supports ARM. We will have a look at the Deploy to Azure button that I've provided in the GitHub repository, and also some export and import capabilities. It's also possible to copy and paste the templates. There is a very cool solution by Ugur. He built intunemonitoring.com. We will have a look at it in a few minutes. It's also possible to automate the whole thing using REST APIs. We will have a look at the demo where we use GitHub Actions to deploy the stuff to your environments. And there we will use federated authentication. That's also a short hint to the session from yesterday. On the bottom you can see a little graph where we visualize the whole structure for deployment. I sincerely hope that you use Git for your versioning control system or some sort of other versioning control system, but that's very crucial in my opinion to have a look and go back if you just did something wrong, or if you just want to store it properly. And there we can copy and paste, for example, from GitHub to Azure Portal, where we just deployed it on portal azure.com, or we can use Azure or GitHub Actions on the bottom. Everything uses then Azure Resource Manager, so management azure.com, that's just an HTTP URL, and it then creates the dashboard itself, where the users from the right can consume the dashboard and hopefully get some insights into the data. That's just for a little ARM template for visualizing, and everything we talk here is then uploaded in the GitHub and also on the schedule or sched.com, I guess. How we can leverage automation for deploying that. For example, if you're an MSP and want to deploy the same dashboard to multiple tenancies, you can just use IAC, so we have Bicep, Terraform, whatever, that then leverages the management API from Azure and also translate it to ARM templates. And yeah, this is then submitted to Azure. There it is validated, and in the end it's deployed to the infrastructure where the users can use it. Let's have a look at real-world scenarios and pitfalls. Maybe you've remembered that Graph API is now integrated into Azure Workbooks. It's quite a limited integration, unfortunately, because in the background it uses the service principal Microsoft Azure App Insights extension, where it only has these permissions. So if we want to get insights into, for example, audit logs real time, that's not possible, unfortunately, because it's only these permissions that the token, which its use in the background has. And it's also currently not available as a selectable data source in the GUI, so you have to use the JSON structure that we will provide at the end. If you use ARM deployment, make sure to escape your characters and format the variables correctly, because it can be very much a pain to do so. Yeah. And what you also have to keep in mind, the URLs are public, at least to the ones that can see it, because everything runs from the front end. So if you have an Azure function, for example, that gets triggered from the dashboard, these URLs can be viewed in the backend or in the browser. And also what we have to keep in mind is that the viewer's permissions are respected, and they may be different from your permission as a developer or as an admin, so they might see less devices. For example, if you use Graph and have scoped the whole Intune tenant, they might see other things than you see. And I highly recommend also to develop and deploy using DevOps. That means you have to keep the source code in a repository, and then you can deploy it, for example, to your tenant if you updated something, or if you're an MSP, it deploys to all your tenants. Maybe some real-world use cases. We at BaseVision use it, for example, as a KPI dashboard for specific services, where we can leverage the data and get the state of how the service performs. Or if we want to get an overview of our health of specific systems and components, there is also a dashboard, for example, for AVD on the back, on the bottom right, and also historic data of D or improvements for some stuff we could have displayed it here. Yeah. If you want to get further information and the resources, here I have some links also to the two mentioned sessions, and maybe one hint here, the KQL session from yesterday is also very, very nice. If you don't have KQL knowledge currently, you can just learn it using the slides that are provided there. Okay, let's have a look at the Intune portal, or the Azure portal, sorry. I've developed some sort of sample dashboard that we can see here because of demonstration purposes. Like I already showed, we can just click edit on the top left corner, and then we can narrow down the specific groups, or let's say here parameters. If you want to have a look at the dashboard yourself, you can just deploy it. We will have a look at it later. If we click edit here, you can see the various data sources. For example, here we are querying just a log analytics workspace. That's a quite simple query, but it can be quite complex if you want to search something. That's probably a bad example here, but you might get the drift here. If you want to leverage Graph API, you can just, unfortunately, not select it here via the GUI currently, but that's coming probably shortly after if the GUI team catches up. We can put the path here, which version, which endpoint we want to leverage. We can do some filtering stuff with URL parameters and also header, and then we can get the result settings here, and then it gets us a nice little count. I guess that's it. No, here we have another example with an Azure function URL. For example, if you have a very specific graph endpoint or some sort of third-party data that you want to provide, you can just use this external data property that's built into KQL itself, and then you can paste an Azure function into here and use everything else that's possible with Azure functions. Maybe some words about Intune monitoring. So that's from Ugur. He walks around here, so if you have a question, just reach out to him probably. That's a very nice GUI where you can leverage Intune data and display it in a very nice manner. A few words about deploying stuff like that. I have a Git repository. It's cloned to my Visual Studio Code here, but it's public in GitHub, where you can see the demo repository. It's also documented here using AI, and you can just copy and paste, or just press the button to deploy to Azure, and then you will get a nice deployment template where you can select where you want to deploy it, for example, to a resource group that's in test here, and you can also choose the region and stuff like that, and then you can deploy it. And there is also another option to use the ARM automation using GitHub Action Pipeline. Let me switch to this here. So we have the option to deploy using GitHub Actions, where it just deploys using federated credentials, and then we can have a look at it. So that deploys in 4 steps. And let me do that quickly here as a demo. If we want to, for example, change the versioning, we have version 1.1.1, and if I change it here in the demo workbook JSON, I can just deploy, push it to Git, and there an action is triggered, hopefully, and this will then promote the whole template to Azure. So if you have multi-tenancy or stuff like that, you can just enter the environments, and then it would update the dashboard to every environment there. So it's just ARM in the background. Yes. It's also possible to export and import the whole structure. So if we click Edit here, we can click on this field which has the braces or brackets, and then we can copy and paste the gallery template, and that's just JSON, as I said, which is then delivered to the front end of the client, and then deployed. I guess that's it from my side. If you have any questions, I think my time is up, but I will be here. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining the Workplace Ninja Community Stage. Stay curious, stay connected, and keep on sharing. Until next time.